Victor here, NorCal Brewing Solutions, and today we are doing a demo brew of the Holiday Hefeweizen. If you missed the first couple of sections, go back and look at prior YouTube videos. We've got the whole entire store smelling absolutely wonderful. The SS Brewing kettle that we're testing out for the first time is doing wonderful. We have no leaks. Now that we have the hop break taken care of, it's time to add our 60-minute hop addition. And again, I like putting these into a steeping bag just so that they're kind of held together and don't go all over the place, clogging up your dip tube or anything like that. When you put the hops into a steeping bag, tie it very loosely again, like you did with the steeping grains, so there's plenty of room for them to move around and have the boil agitating them. This is now at simmer. We have not started our 60-minute timer yet. When I add the hops, they release oxygen, so there's a potential for boil over again. So be very ready for that. You can see a little bit of that, but this is only an ounce of hops, so it's not going to be as critical here. Now, we are going to start our 1-hour timer. Start. And we don't have any other hops in this particular recipe, but at the 15-minute mark, we're going to add our wort chiller to sanitize it. At the 5-minute mark, we're going to add our fruit cake fruits. And in the meantime, what we want to do is have this thing boiling faster than it is right here. We want to have as good a rolling boil as we can possibly have without scorching our beer wort and without having a boil over. So that right there is considered rolling boil. The Blickman is actually turned down quite a ways. As you can see, there's still a potential for a boil over to happen, so you got to keep an eye on these things. And I'm going to turn it down just a little bit for a little while longer. That could be a direct result of our hops getting that hop break going again. And we are at the point where we're ready to put in a wort chiller. Now, those of you who have been brewing for a while realize this is a 50-foot, half-inch wort chiller, complete overkill for a 5-gallon dried malt extract partial boil. But this is all we have right now, so we're going to go ahead and do this. So I've got a wort chiller here that I'm going to put into the boil. You want to make sure as soon as you put this thing in that you have that nozzle pointing away from you or anybody else, because if there's any water trapped in that wort chiller, as it heats up, it's going to start spitting out and you could potentially burn somebody. As you can see inside, the boil went almost completely stopped because of the cold that the wort chiller introduced. So while that is in there and we're at the 15-minute mark, we are actually going to get ready to put in the Fermax yeast nutrient. Again, all of our kits at NorCal Brewing Solutions come with yeast nutrient. And you can add this in any time, 5 minutes to 15 minutes before the end of the boil. I'm going to go ahead and add it now just because it's a convenient place to stop. And the way you use Fermax is it's 1 teaspoon per gallon of beer. So that comes out to about an ounce of Fermax to do this batch. And no magic to it, you just throw it in. Very rarely this can also cause a boil up, so just be careful. This particular recipe has 1 pound of fruitcake fruits. This is where the spice comes from, the fruit flavor for our winter warmer. And I want to make this is kind of a unique recipe in that I want to boil this for a short amount of time to get the fruit soggy and releasing sugars and so forth. But the longer you boil fruits or honeys or anything else, the less aroma you're going to have in your beer. So the magic number for me here is to do it for 5 minutes. And then we're actually going to take this entire bag of fruit and we're going to actually put it into the fermentation bucket. So a little different spin on normal brewing, but brewing is all about experimenting, and that's what we're doing today. Okay, so this is what we talked about, being careful with your wort chiller, that it could actually spray steaming water at you. You can see there's steam coming out of the cold side of that. Sorry, out of the hot side of that. We already have the hose hooked up, because right now, if I was to try and hook that hose up, that'd be way too hot for me to be able to touch it. So you want to hook that up before you ever put your wort chiller into your kettle to sanitize it. Okay, well, we are at the 5-minute mark, which is when we're going to put in our fruit. Sticking that right in the middle, bobbing it around a little bit. Want to make sure that it's getting really saturated. You can see our little hop bag floating next to it right there. And as soon as the timer goes off, that we are done with the 1 hour boil, I'm going to cut the heat, and I'm not going to turn the water on in here because we don't need it going all over the store, but I'm going to cut the heat. We'll take the kettle outside and then turn on the cold water to activate the wort chiller. Alright, we are at 0. We're going to kill our flame. And we are now ready to start chilling our wort as quick as possible. The reason we want to chill it as quick as possible is so that we don't have any other bacteria or wild yeast getting a chance to get started. And there we go. Now at this point, anything that touches the beer has got to be sanitized. So I cannot put the spoon in there without first sticking it into the star sand that we had prepared. And giving it 1 minute of contact time with the star sand. There's no reason to rinse it. And at this point, you might be tempted to really agitate this to get it cooling faster. If we move it around, yes, it's going to cool faster, but we don't want to get it to the point where we're adding oxygen to the beer wort at this point, because it will create some off flavors. Also be careful if you have any kind of drips going on that it's outside of your kettle. That's been a minute roughly. So if we want to stir this to get more exposure to the cold water, that's fine, but we don't want to create any bubbles at this high a heat yet. Once you get down to 80 degrees, 90 degrees in that area, no problem, because yeast do love oxygenated wort, but when it's this hot, you don't want to do what's called hot aeration. It's not very deep in there. It's going to be a while to cool this. There's our fruitcake fruits. And the reason that there's not a whole lot of liquid in there is because we do have a false bottom that's about 2 inches. And we boiled 3 gallons of water down to probably only around 2. So we don't have a whole lot of surface contact. One of the things we could do if we wanted to is actually add the remaining water to get to 5 gallons, which would cool this down a lot faster. The problem I have with that is I'm not sure if, we want to hit pretty much right at 5 gallons so that we know that our ratio of sugar to water is correct when we take our hydrometer reading. And I have no clue how much we really boiled off from the initial 3 gallons. So that's why we're taking the safe approach here and actually doing this kind of the hard way with equipment that's really geared a lot more towards a bigger batch of beer than a partial boil.